I always remember the story. I'll end with the story. Let's see, 1995, 1994. It was 94. I was assigned to St. Louis Parish here in Austin, over on Burnett Road. I was there for 1 year. And it was on December the 7th. And, you know, that's how you say when you've had significant events in your life, you never forget the day, the time, where you were, etc. But it was late at night in the rectory. There were 3 of us priests there working, and we heard a lot of fire. I mean, you know, fire trucks and so forth. And Burnett Road is a crazy place. It was crazy then. It's crazier now. But you know, you hear them all the time. No big deal. The next morning, I was hearing confession, celebrating the sacrament, and confessional, and Father Kirby came over and knocked on the door and said, "We got a problem. Can I talk to you?" And it was the morning when it was that night, but we didn't find out till the morning, when the 4 girls, the yogurt murders, were committed. There was a yogurt shop right off of Anderson, and there were 4 young girls. 3 of them were from our parish. 2 of them were sisters. And 2 of the girls, not the sisters, but 2 of the girls were working in the yogurt shop, and then 2 of the other girls were at, like, at a movie, I think across the street at the mall. I came after it was over to come back home with, you know, the girls. And then, long story short, somebody went in, somebody killed them, and then set the place on fire, etc., etc. And so even to this day, I just saw the news the other day that now they're doing a retry. The reason I bring up the story is because we had to have that funeral. And I had to do one of the preaching at one of the services there at the church. It was, I was probably, 3 years ordained, and very difficult. I had just given the oldest girl First Communion a week before. So there were a lot of raw feelings and emotions, I think, for myself. So we did the funeral, very powerful, very difficult, etc., etc. I left Austin that year to go to Houston and work. And I worked in Houston for 3 years at a parish. I came back, and when I was coming back to the diocese to work, that's when Bishop McCarthy at the time asked me would I open up this new parish, now called St. Vincent de Paul. So my first job, as you start a new parish, you were visiting the neighboring parishes. So I visited the neighboring parishes of St. William, St. Thomas More, St. Albert the Great. I don't remember if I came out here. But I came on the Sunday and took all the masses and preached. The one Sunday that I was at St. Albert the Great was, the readings were about forgiving 70 times 7. Now, 3 years have passed, you know, you move on with life. As I'm preaching, in the 3rd row was the mother of the 2 girls, the 2 sisters that were murdered. So I gave my homily. I think it was pretty strong, probably, and so I'm you know, all these flashes are coming back as I'm seeing her, and I'm saying my words about what we're called to do, etc., etc. And I'm, you know, I finished, sat down, and I'm thinking, oh, great, of all homilies, God, for me to give today, etc., etc. So I came and I was shaking hands with people outside, and the mother came out and she said, "Father, do you remember me?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I, you know, "How are you doing?" etc. And she said, "You know, your words were very difficult to hear." She said, "In fact, I was beginning to get angry." But then she said, "But I also know that is what I'm supposed to do." It was a real lesson for me as a priest to, I think, to know that even in those difficult times, it doesn't change what we're supposed to do. We all have our stories, and you probably have some like that, and probably some that are deeper. I wish I could tell you that it's simple, that it's easy. It isn't to forgive. And certainly to reconcile, I think, is even more difficult. But I think we need not lose sight that the sacrament was set aside specifically to help us to begin that journey to be at peace. And I don't think necessarily because we go to reconciliation one time that it's going to happen. I think it's a journey, it's a process. But I think we need not fear that either God cannot help us or God won't help us, because I think God will. People's lives, one person can forgive maybe like this and move on, perhaps, and another person it takes a lot longer. The key is that we're willing to embrace it and to know that if I say that I want to be a follower of His, then I have to begin to accept that I not only need to be forgiven, but I also need to forgive. And so, it's a journey. The church gives us a beautiful vehicle. It's not always perfect. Some of you have had some experiences of it. Perhaps that's, it didn't talk about this wonderful kind of models, and it was maybe cut and dried and pretty like that. I would just ask you, give the priest, when you experience it sometime like that, a little bit of a break. And I say that because of being in that chair. Depending upon the circumstances, you're trying to do the right thing the best way. I would always tell you that the best way to experience perhaps that, and every person is different. It's like if you hear a homeless and you say, I really like the way he preaches. Boy, he touches my heart and my soul. Well, there may be a confessor that you've gone to or want to go to that you say, I want to experience it with him. Go. I do the same. But, just keep asking God to help you through it, especially if you're new, you're going to be new to the church. This idea of confessing, this idea of acknowledging guilt, I don't know about this. Just be good to yourself. Let the journey, the more that you do it, I believe, the more comfortable you become with it. That's if you begin to enter it with a model of, I'm going to experience God's love. Because if you're going through it, experiencing or approaching it, I'm afraid, I'm fearful, then yeah, it's going to be hard. And I said to someone earlier, I said, one of the beautiful things, I think testaments, when I've come here to hear first confessions, the first time the kids make it, it's always, to me, if the child, because I'm thinking of, second graders, if the child can leave the room with a smile on their face, then I think, maybe I've achieved what I tried to do. I had one this past year, here, that wasn't that way. The child entered the room crying, trembling, and I thought, why did you give me this one? Because it's not only the crying when they come in, I've got to try to see, can I stop the crying because all the other kids are watching when this kid leaves. So I think one of the things that I've seen with the kids in general is that our children's experience, and I think even you as adults that are entering the church, our experience today receiving the Sacrament of Reconciliation, and I say it celebrating, because I really think it's a celebration of God's love and mercy. Our celebration of it is just way different, just than what many of us experienced when we were young kids. And I think it's a fuller and richer meaning of what I think when you look at the scriptures, when you talk about Jesus' ministry was about reconciliation, mercy, sitting with the sinner, etc. I think today that's what the sacrament does. So I just encourage you to celebrate. Okay? Thank you.